Now if you'll turn with me then, I'm also supposed to let the viewing audience realize that our Oklahoma classes are on the blackboard. I'll try to stay out of the way once in a while. And if you're in any of those four areas, why, make contact with us, and we'd love to have you come into one of the classes. All right, now then, Exodus chapter 19. And now the third month, the month of June. The children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt. The same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Now they're right down in the base of the old mountain itself, the mountain of God, for they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert and pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. Now verse 3. As Israel is camped around the base of Mount Sinai, then Moses goes up into the mount unto God. And the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and thus shall you tell the children of Israel. Now verse 4. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, drowning them, of course, in the Red Sea, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now, it'll be a long time at the rate we've been going before we'll get to the book of Revelation. So I'm going to take the time here to jump all the way back to Revelation, because you have the same identical words used. And the reason I like to tie them together is because it's going to be a like circumstance for a group of Jews who at the last days or the last half of the tribulation period will be fleeing away from Jerusalem to a place that God will lead them out in the mountains. I think of Moab, might be the city of Petra, but at least it's going to be someplace out in the mountains southeast of Jerusalem. And we pick this up in Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. And I'd like to have you look first at verse 6. Revelation 12, verse 6, where the woman, that is Israel, fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of God, that they, the Godhead, should feed her there 1,260 days. That's 3.5 months. Now, who are these Jews that are going to be fleeing from Jerusalem? Now, keep your hand in Revelation. Come back with me again to Matthew 24. As I've said before, a lot of times I'll teach things that I didn't intend to teach, and I didn't intend to do this. I thought I was going to stay in Exodus in all four of these programs, but I always have to feel that the Spirit has a reason for doing some things, and this may be one of them. So if you'll come back with me to Matthew 24 and drop in at verse 15. Now, of course, the setting for Matthew 24 is Jesus alone with the 12, and they have asked him in the early verse of this chapter, what are the signs of thy coming? In other words, what can Israel look for at the appearance of her Messiah? So now Jesus continues on through the chapter, and at verse 15, himself speaking, he says, when you. Now, of course, he's talking to the 12, and so he goes beyond the 12, but still to the nation of Israel. This is no Gentile language in here whatsoever. So he says to the 12, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Now we're not going to take time to go back to Daniel, but you'll remember that